bonjour, bonjour. The hyperbolic paraboloid at Zeckendorf. That certainly sounds to me like an alien craft, if I were to believe in aliens. Anyways. And I don't. Well, I shouldn't say that. I don't believe in aliens from outer space. But who cares what I believe? It's all about what I can see, what we can look at together. And that's why we're doing this. Not for no friggin' aliens, real or imagined. Ultra high frequency, hard transmit receive antenna. Whatever this is, this underground launch capsule, looks just like a cathedral. Just saying what it looks like. That's all I'm saying. And these are the drawings that we get before we get to the main event. A nuclear weapons complex. And sorry, Nevada, you win the lottery! What do I know about military stuff? I know that I'm not like a military man. Uranium goes in here, party liquors comes out here. Arrests is made, court days is missed, something like that. You know what I'm quoting. You know who you are, and you know. A lot of documents here, lots of docs. I could do without them. There we go. Let's pick it up right here. Starting with this beautiful property right here, folks. You remember where you heard it first. This jaw-dropping, stunning bit of vernacular is none other than the Horseshoe Ranger Station. I know what you're thinking. What is a building of such grandeur, such beauty, even doing anywhere near Parshall, Colorado? This is Building A. Does that comfort you? Otherwise known as a building. This is a booby trap we set later up for Jimmy when he comes looking for hot dogs. He's gonna get zapped. I fucking hate Jimmy. This here ranger station is significant on a local level, and possibly a state level. It depends on you, how much you like rangers. It's not so much about what the ranger did or didn't do here, or what exactly went on here. It's about what this ranger station represents. Why? Because the author's job is to distract you from the truly old world things and point your attention to what they're going to present as your history in this rustic old barn, ignoring all the old world amazingness that's undoubtedly 15 miles away. But this here Horseshoe Ranger Station represents the creation of our national forests. That's right. That's right. The Arapaho, if I'm saying that right, became a national forest in 1908. Rangers were assigned to patrol these lands when this happened. It included, unregulated logging, monitorization, enforcery of the grazing regulations, watching for forest fires, and in general, preventing settlements from encroaching on the now preserved forest, completely ignoring the fact that that's what had been happening already all across the continent. Job was dangerous. The grazing issue alone caused many a ranger to literally face death in the form of a gun-toting cowboy in these wild days. To provide shelter for its rangers, the Forest Service built these these guard stations to house the employees. A ranger was assigned to each station year-round, and from here he patrolled the forest. Usually they had an outhouse and a well for water, and a corral, because horses were the ranger's only transportation in these trying times. Since the ranger was stationed for a long period of time, this became his home, a common phenomena throughout the western United States well into the 50s. Told that the Forest Service was created in 1906 when the timber reserves were removed from the Department of the Interior to the Department of Agriculture. The purpose of these reserves was to protect timber from uncontrolled development, and also they could sell permits for use by ranchers and would-be lumbermen. In 1906, Teddy Roosevelt was convinced to create a Forest Service and manage the reserves as national forests, and that's when many of them became created by Teddy Roosevelt. And somehow this station represents all that, just by existing. And that concludes my book report. Thank you. This is what we're told is the Grand Ditch, with a D I said, ditch, at Grand Lake in Grand County. Not sure if these are descriptive terms or if they're titular in nature. You know what I mean. Don't be pervy, Jimmy. And these beautiful buildings, sorry, go back to the other side. Oh, well, it's too late now. This gorgeous building can be yours if only you were part of the United States Forest Service 100 years ago. But you aren't, so it's not yours anymore. It's no one's. It looks like it fell apart before the trees could even get to it. But they're coming. Look at them over the hill. They're coming down to beat its ass for using their cousins as load-bearing walls. What a shame. And look at him. He's just terrified. He's like, ah! You should be terrified. After all, look what they're doing to their friend over here. They're waterboarding him. That cabin looks like it floated there. That cabin looks like it's made of broken other cabins by a person who may be mentally challenged. Now, of course, that's not what the survey says. I'm taking some creative liberty. This is the Vanadium Corporation of America, Nachorita Mill, weighing office, and station. That uranium type stuff. It was built by VCA employees in 1960. Experimental uranium and vanadium concentrate. And since it's the 1960s, I'm not that interested. 30s or before. You know what I'm saying? This is where we keep the prisoners. Look at them, they're unruly. I didn't do anything to you. Okay, sorry, wrong guy. And this is where we keep the cephalopod prisoners. That's right, those are tentacles. And this is where we torture those cephalopods for the information we seek. Unsuccessfully. Here's where we process vanadium. That's what vans are made of. Wow, look at it. I didn't even draw this one, but I will finish it. Open wide. Eat the food. Wider. That's better. That's more like it. He's like kind of emo. He's like, your hair is everywhere. Walking away from all this stuff. Like, whatever it is, it's worth something to somebody. My God, what a bunch of friggin' wasters. Nope, don't care. We're done here. Pack it up and go home. And this is the only construction or part of this site that I find interesting, and it's these kilns or ovens. Well, there's a water tower around here, too, that's also kind of cool. It looks like Jawas were here repairing old droids. Or maybe this is where the Boiler Man from Spirited Away chills. Out of the way. He's got those little soot guys, you know, running around, you know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know if these references are earning me any friends. Look at that. They packed up everything and then they realized they had some flat tires and now the vacation's ruined. This is where one of the 3 little piggies lived. As you can see, his roof was completely blown right off. Strike that. Give me the line again. What we have here is a primitive jacuzzi. The Rangers would often undress and gather here and cool out with a couple of cold lagers. I mean like lager like the beer, not like lagers. They were trying to prevent logging. Yeah, phrasing. In any case, they tried to hide it from the supervisor, so they had to camouflage into the mountain because, you know, not allowed to have a jacuzzi out here. It's in the rule books. And, you know, it looks much more beautiful in color. Imagine that. These abandoned things, and I forget that in real life. It's actually kind of pretty. What have we here? Underground something? Look at that. What is a filled-in tunnel? What the frick's going on underneath this city? Why's it gotta be everywhere, dude? Why? I don't even know where we're at. I'm guessing partial? Based on the vicinity of where we were at, but there's no indicator, except for these license plates, that we are in... Whoa. Wow. And, hello. Hey, alright, don't want no prob, don't want no trub. Oh, it's like a mill. Just spitballing over here, recklessly speculating, lack of information, cool old houses. That was then, and this is today. I don't know it to be true. I really don't, because I don't know what I'm looking at. It looks uninteresting to Ma Brian. Why is this even in the survey? I'm supposed to be looking at historic American building. Very historical to me. Modern Vanadium Corporation, probably. So you just came out here, you just built a new one, you just left the old one out there for the trees to clean up, huh? No wonder they are trying to beat our asses in slow motion. Now, what we're actually looking at here is the Rocky Flats plant. Let me just stop you right there before you start blaming innocent corporations. You see, the Rocky Flats plant is a plutonium recovery facility. And since these vehicles tell me this is 1997, we're moving on. That's a little better. Now, that's a proper construction photo. Would-be overlords, stacked lumber, right? Things that make actual sense. So put that in your little cabal pipe and puff it. Forgive me for not realizing how irrelevant this part of the survey was. Be forced to listen to me ramble. This is the Hondius waterline. Construction and engineered by Pieter Hondius. The pipeline served as the primary water supply to the high drive area from 1906 until 1996. Quite a run there. Am I looking at a mirror here? Or a drawing? Or what is that? Really, I can't tell what I'm... Or is it just a gate with nothing in the... That is a strange picture. In any case, in 1896, Mr. Pieter Hondius arrived in Estes Park from Holland, trying to escape the ravages of asthma. He found opportunity amongst the mountain meadows dotted with tiny homesteads, and the opportunity was to run a cattle ranch. Many people in the area dreamed of agriculture with a beautiful view, and here, at an elevation of 8,000, unlike this sad robot, attempts were happily made to grow Timothy hay in this inhospitable climate. This is where the early ghoul settlers were massacred. When their spirits left this realm, their bed sheets that they were floating around in collapsed into the floor and were left there. Served as a public restroom for many years, and the area, we're told, reeked of urine and broken dreams. But let's go back to the story at hand. Joel Estes and his family, the first settlers, tried to work the land between 1860 and 1866, and they failed. They left little behind but the remains of their cabin on Fish Creek. Others picked it up where they left off, but the agricultural activities began to take the backseat, hosting visitors mainly to enjoy the stunning view. In some ways, these early men became a chamber of commerce for the rolling parklands. As the tide of agriculturalists and would-be cattlemen began to swell, Wyndham Quinn, the 4th Earl of Dunraven, visited these men, namely Griff Evans, and the park decided to establish a large cattle ranch and hunting reserve. Lord Dunraven attempted to control the entirety of the Estes Valley like lords do, but these squatters kept showing up, like Abner Sprague, who had laid claim to Moraine Park, and the McGregor family had moved into the mouth of the Black Canyon, where they dared you to come extract them. The McGregors are not to be taken lightly, is what they probably said. Then these are just a few of the many people trying to establish legitimate farming and ranching operations. But as the seasons changed, the tourists began to replace the cattle. They were milked and slaughtered just like their forebears. Many visitors, including Lord Dunraven and Isabella Bird. Isabella Bird is not a question, that's her name. Found lodging at Griff Evans' homestead, prompting William James to open the Elkhorn Hotel. That same year, Lord Dunraven opened the English Hotel on his cattle ranch. And by 1904, there were 4. The need for water then shifted from simple agricultural ditches and canals to a more complex domestic water system. With increased visitation, water became valuable. Summer cottages sprang up, and as people began to settle in, these cattlemen recognized an opportunity to capitalize on the rising price of water. If there be visitors, then there be reliable water system needs, says they. Park Town Company was formed. Many of the area's residents built summer cabins and deserted them during the winter months. However, many of the areas were outside of the proposed municipal water system, such as Beaver Creek, the area known as High Drive. And that's where Pieter Hondius comes back into the story. In many ways, Mr. Hondius was the prototype of the late 19th century Colorado settler. At age 22, he came to the state, like many other Colorado immigrants, to alleviate the suffering caused by asthma. The dry air made breathing easier for those with respiratory ailments. He became a naturalized U.S. citizen, embarked upon a brief prospecting trip to Hans Peak, took up agriculture, met his wife, Eleanor Estes James, the daughter of William James, and somehow Estes Park somehow. This 22-year-old man somehow owned 2,000 acres in Beaver Meadows in no time. He claims in an interview that he found an assaying kit among his father's belongings and that the mining impulse soon panned out. No pun intended. The pan was intentional, but not the pun. It was probably during this time that he built an irrigation ditch that would serve as a precursor to the water line. Eleanor writes, he bought something like 2,000 acres of land in the park and decided to go into cattle business, but did not reckon with ragweed and timothy, which gave him hay fever and eventually attacks of asthma. Then he would have to change altitude and go either to Timberline on a camping trip or to Denver. He said amongst the whorehouses is where he found the most relief, which I found to be odd, but anything for your health, dear. George Melvin, whoever that is, pops up on the scene just to confirm Mr. Hondius' health problem, and said he often saw him while he was on fishing trips. While some of these trips may have been recreational, chances are he was often visiting his higher altitude cabin in order to escape the ragweed and timothy, two obnoxious area transients who consistently wanted to, quote-unquote, hang out, bro. Eventually, because of his health, Mr. Hondius went to Arizona in the winter, and after Little Peter came, we spent every other winter in Hawaii. Oh, you poor dears. Every other winter in Hawaii. In the 1800s, huh? Where did you get your money, I wonder? In any case, Mr. Hondius was forced to herd his cattle over Pole Hill to Loveland in order to find feed for them, which was a 30-mile journey over rolling rocky hills. Torturous snowstorms, raging winds often made the journey worse, as you can imagine. So then he sold all the land, and soon there were 200 cabins on Williams' property, which is why he made the Buck Creek Reservoir. He had no engineering training. He'd graduated from gymnasia in his native Holland, PE, but beyond this he had no formal education. The boy can run and throw a ball, but he can't spell worth a damn. That's why his name Peter has an I in it, probably. But he possessed the practical genius, which many pioneers display, the get-the-job-done innovation. And this comes from an interview with him, by the way, speaking in third person. As all true psychopaths do, Jack said. The initial component of the water system soon proved to be inadequate. His holdings included much of the Beaver Meadows, eventually became the largest private landholder within the boundaries of Rocky Mountain National Park. And, of course, the U.S. government eventually acquired more than half of it. He brought the gift of water to many of the area's residents, though it's not clear how. One of Peter's favorite sayings, water runs downhill. What a genius. While this saying sums up much of the design of the Hondius water line, one of the branches of the buried pipeline ascends 250 feet to the Buck Creek Reservoir. Peter Hondius made water run uphill by using advanced siphoning techniques as well as building up the waterhead. How this was accomplished has stumped modern hydrologists and engineers. Mr. E.R. Anderson writes, contemporary engineers who have reason to be exposed to the Hondius line have been impressed at the engineering that he employed and find that it operates in a manner that they cannot possibly accomplish. Today, all this from a guy who majored in PE, in Holland. Sounds to me like there's something going on here. This one guy made this 8,300 feet contour lines, and also I should point out that all these pictures have nothing to do with this. Sorry for that. I don't know what any of this stuff is. Why it's in the survey. This is where they spray painted that giant badminton birdie. Am I even in the right photo shoot? What is that? I want your Really, what is all this? That's where you'll be sleeping, Jennifer. Dinner's at 8. You! What the fuck is going on here? Hey, guys. What's up, bud? Do you guys know, is there a bathroom down here, or do I have to buy something? Poof. What is this? All right, did you unplug it and plug it back in? Damn, they already did that. I don't even know them, bro. I'm going on break. Hello, ma'am. Is the light green on the machine? And that, folks, was the very first tech support center. And this, well, hell, I don't even know what this is. I can't even lie. I mean, I can. Look, it's the Civil War pictures. Look at all them dead people. This must have been the Battle of Gettysburg, when 1 million men lay there dying. That's what it looks like to me, based on all them other Civil War pictures I've seen. This here is the Ziegler Farm. It is an example of the 1920s and 1930s vernacular farm architecture. The Plains Dairy Farm is represented here as a complex, an example of the work process and flow. In particular, the barns, the milk shed, and the associated corrals offer a clear representation of the evolution of dairy cattle tending and milking operations as carried out by the Zieglers from the 1930s through 1973. Here's where the Zieglers sat. Here's where the Zieglers dined. Here's where the Zieglers partied way too hard. Finally, a building that looks like it's not going to fall down. Let me guess, you're going to bulldoze it, and this is part of mitigation. Is that right, Colorado? Is that what you do? Don't play coy with me. It's one of the earliest, public housing project in good old Colorado. Revitalize the economy. Repair the mortal fiber of the nation. These were tenets of the New Deal. What was once an innovative solution to the public housing needs of Depression-era Denver is now a sobering reminder of the ongoing problems associated with providing for the poor. These are all unoccupied and being prepared for demolition. Certainly not one of his more memorable projects, but noted Denver architect Temple Buell's work. These 24 flat-roofed masonry buildings. Seems like a complex that is in fine condition. Not see the need to tear this down. I mean, I see a little disrepair over here. But we know what's really going on around here. Gotta replace it with drywall. Gotta make it crappier. And it's a shame. Not sure that one needed a chimney that big. Seems like a little overkill. Here, our surveyor broke into a cabin home and looks like he's just helping himself to the victuals. Look at that rudely abused fireplace. Look, and he knows it too. He's like, help! Look at that little, mini chimney. I've heard of mini chimichangas. You want mini chimney? Not sure what we're doing here in this little leg of the survey, wandering around whoa. Okay. So check it out. What, do you think I was going to stop and sing like a 5-minute blues song to it? What kind of guy do you think I am? This one takes giant quarters. Not the best leg of the journey here, I'll admit. I never know what I'm going to run into. Such is the luck of the draw. This stretch of the state just seeming to be very rural and rather industrial. And then out of nowhere, wowza. Just when I was about to give up on the old boy, look at that mamma jamba. Unsurprising then to find out this was the post office. And it doubles as the federal building as well for Pueblo. Now, as the number of government employees expanded dramatically during the late 19th century, federal buildings proliferated and flourished all across the country. In many towns, licking the boots, all begged and pleaded and sought their erection as an indication of municipal importance. Please make us relevant, federal government, please. These buildings were viewed by local residents as important additions to the architectural heritage of the city. More like the inheritance of the city. This one was established in December 13, 1860, with W.S. Catterson as the postmaster. This was merely the second federal building erected in Colorado. Quite overkill for a post office, I'd say. And unsurprisingly, we've got a little... And quite beautiful. Inside, outside, even these little guys. Little phoenix boxes. Tee. Interesting pattern. This is the Snow White Cleaners and Laundry, which, if that's not a front for a drug operation, I don't know. With a name like that. Built in 1947 for Snow White Cleaners and Laundry. 1961 was the date of its demise. Little is known about the origins of the cleaner, other than it started in business in 1944. In 1962, the 88-cent store occupied the building, until the husband and wife team of Gil and Ethel Gomez moved in and opened a beauty salon on one side and a barber shop on the other. This is the part of Denver known as the Barnum neighborhood. The original patent for the land was granted to Daniel Witter, who declared bankruptcy 13 years later, and the land was sold to P.T. Barnum, one of the world's most renowned circus showmen. Town of Barnum was incorporated, scattered houses and a few businesses, a dairy, a brick plant, and greenhouses. A demolished town hall and fire station that were built in 1892. And among the first improvements Barnum made by the city of dinner was grading the streets, laying the water and electric lines. I don't know how the circus man knows how to do that. And she's a little charmer. Inside, it's been converted to the world's smallest skate rink. It's right through there, Jennifer. Put on your roller skates. Get in there. Old P.T. Barnum, eh? Old worlder. You can tell by the brickwork. Brickwork is so cool, though. So simple, and yet they just make it so interesting. And then we come along and just take big dumps inside and wander off. Maybe literally. No doubt. That's all your fates once the trees get a hold of you. You'll have had it coming. This was St. Luke's Hospital, a nurse's home built in 1937, established by the Sisters of Charity. Now, not so much. Not even 100 years old, and they're tearing it down. What a joke. And down this massive building, and all the outlying structures. Whoa, what do you got going on down there, buddy? You stay out. That concludes this leg of the survey. That's all I got for you today. It's a bit of a doozy. Hopefully you get some entertainment value out of it. Psych. I'm just kidding, way. I wouldn't leave you like that. The whole point, I know the jokes are fun, but that's just my nature. I can't help but turn anything into a joke. The real reason for this is obviously to learn some things, to learn about our history and to determine whether or not it's to be taken into consideration when we place ourselves in that world, and thereby try to determine who and what we are. Often American history, I find to be lacking in the department known as the reality. And so I try to share that, try to explore it. I never know what I'm going to run into in these surveys, but I always want it to be beneficial. When the survey is giving us turds with which to make lemonade, well, I refuse. So we're going to take a little dive into Colorado so we can get a little better perspective than what the survey is giving us. I've traveled pretty extensively through Colorado. I know fairly well many different areas of it. Thank you, robot. I had to recruit some robots to help me out around here, and mixed results. Anyway, the picture that we're being painted in this survey is one of old western town. Nothing happening here but a bunch of dusty old cabins and whatnot. And rangers are terrified from gun-toting cowboys and all this. And it's like, yeah, maybe, because the parts of Colorado that I see, specifically in Denver, well, not just in Denver, all over, are a little bit different than that. And so I just want to take just a brief, I'm not going to go into in-depth, but just a brief little idea. So in case you haven't been there, you can get a feel for what I'm talking about, what I'm expressing frustration about the lack of attention to some of these areas, and they're focusing on little old rusticated, beat down, shacks and lean-tos out in the desert, as if they're painting a different narrative than it feels like when you're there. So Colorado is definitely a man-made state, as in there's no natural borders at all. They're all just surveyors that establish these border markers based on latitude, longitude. It's one of the four corner states, sharing a border with Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. And from west to east, the whole state is desert-like basins. It kind of turns into plateaus, and then there's alpine mountains, and then there's the grasslands of the Great Plains. Colorado's got more than 50 mountain peaks that are more than 14,000 feet tall. Pikes Peak, probably the most famous. That's simply because it's visible from the Kansas border. It's most visible from the east side. Obviously, Native American tribes played a very influential role, guides and teachers to early pioneers, and of course, there's massacres and other tales of horrible things happening. The entire state is above 3,000 feet elevation. And despite that, nearly half the state is flat. Quiet down, robot. The majority of the population lives on the eastern edge of the Rockies, and the region that stretches from these are the San Juan Mountains. The region that stretches from here is where most of these silver and gold mining districts are. It's a very rugged mountain range. Nearby, Grand Junction is the largest city on the western slope. And to the southeast of this is the Grand Mesa, which is the world's largest flat-topped mountain. Black Canyon of Gunnison National Park is one of 4 in the state. There's also the Great Sand Dunes National Park and Preserve. I'll turn that on so you can see where the cities and things are in the area. So Mesa Verde, which we've looked at and discussed before many a time. I'm rather highly suspicious of this here. As history has it, gold was discovered here in 1858. At the time, this was all Kansas territory. After the election of Abe Lincoln as president in 1860, and the secession of 6 states and the threat of civil war, allegedly, the U.S. Congress admitted the eastern portion of Kansas to the Union as the Free State of Kansas, leaving the western portion unorganized. 30 days later, President James Buchanan signed an act of Congress organizing the Free Territory of Colorado. They chose the name because they thought that the Colorado River originated in the territory. Although later on it was determined that it was actually Wyoming, the Green River. And in 1878, Grant admitted Colorado to the Union as the 38th state, and 2 years later, a major silver lode was discovered, which triggered the Colorado Silver Boom. The Sherman Silver Purchase Act of 1890 invigorated mining, but then the act's repeal collapsed the state's economy. In 1930, the population of Colorado finally exceeded 1 million residents in 1930. A little background on it here. Denver obviously being the most populated of the area in Colorado. It was founded in 1858, 20 years before it became a state. A dusty collection of buildings on a long grassy plain, it's described as, with a few contorted cottonwood and willow trees on the riverbank. Fast forward to today, we have over 200 parks, which were greatly expanded by Denver Mayor Robert Speer from 1904 to 1912, is given the credit for all this greenery, which is fed with the South Platte River, which was water diverted through the city ditch. Now it's got about 14,000 acres of mountain parks. It was a mining town in what was western Kansas territory until a group of gold prospectors arrived and established Montana City on the banks of South Platte River, which became Denver. It was abandoned initially, and in 1858, General William Larimer, a land speculator from eastern Kansas, put cottonwood logs to stake a claim on the hill and named the town site Denver City to curry favor with Kansas Territorial Governor James Denver. The Colorado Territory was created in 1861. Denver was incorporated that same year, and with its newfound importance, Denver became the state capital when Colorado was admitted to the Union. Between 1880 and 1905, the city experienced a huge rise in city corruption, crime bosses, and by 1890, it had actually grown to be the second largest city west of Omaha, and it dropped to third place after San Francisco and LA came about by 1900. So from mining town to corrupt oligarchy, third largest city in the West in 30 years. Personally, the old charm of Denver is fast fading. It seems like they bulldozed historic buildings at a breathtaking rate, and honestly, the city looks ugly and dumb now. It looks like just every other city in America, and I'm sure that's the goal. That's what they call progress. But one day, I'm sure this is the argument to be like, well, Denver needs more low-density condos and housing, blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure that you'll get what you ask for, and soon you'll join the chorus of, hey, what happened to my city? We looked at this one. This is the Metropole, or the Metropole, and it's already a little odd that you would even have this sort of thing here in this, just a few cottonwoods spread along the river and a bunch of dusty mining towns. I mean, very bizarre. This must be 1 million bricks in this thing. But okay. And why is the road... the road looks like a river, but whatever the case may be, whatever's going on with that river road, this building clearly goes down another 10 feet underneath. But of course, what we have here is what always happens. I'll bet you can guess it's the Great Fire of Denver, when downtown Denver burns to the ground in 1863. Oh my God. Not even mentioned in their history. According to historian Jerome Smiley, the spring of 1863 was a dry one, and high winds were daily visitors, and in a town comprised almost entirely of wood frame buildings. On the morning of April 19th, disaster struck downtown Denver in a major way. Between 2 and 3 a.m., a small fire broke out in the rear of the Cherokee House, an entertainment established on the southwest corner of 15th and Blake. Fueled by a strong wind, the small fire quickly turned into a huge fire. Within 3 hours, every building in downtown was completely devastated, despite the all-hands-on-deck effort by every able-bodied man in Denver. Even in 1862, they'd had a fire squad that apparently was still out of practice, despite being around for 4 years. On the other side of Cherry Creek, the town of Auraria was spared entirely. Now that said, no one was spared from the impact of the fire. Prices doubled overnight for every item that could be purchased, thanks vendors. Surprisingly, though, many property owners began rebuilding right away. And in no time, Denver's downtown was back up and running. However, there's one significant difference. They rebuilt with brick, which resisted fire better, and gave the town a far more presentable aspect than it had before the fire. It was mandated that every building in Denver should be built with bricks. Interesting, huh? Same story we've heard all around the freaking country. It's almost a way to explain, well, of course we built everything. Why? Haven't you heard of the Great Fire when everything burned to the ground? Well, it's not burnt now, is it? Therefore, we must have built it. It's logic. Right. Logic. Convenient great fires that may or may not have happened. But regardless, despite the Great Fire, Denver had no problem gathering all their cowboys and all their crusted, dusty coal miners and gathering them and saying, now look here, gentlemen, we need to rebuild this place. Now dig into your memory banks and every mansard roof or coffered ceiling or Doric column, any bit of architecture you can remember. Let's get her done. And they rebuilt her in no time. Well, just look at some of these things. What are these spittoons on the ground? This is the inside of the Denver Bank. This here is a Denver houseboat complete with antenna. And does this look like a place that populated heavily by cowboys and miners. I mean, look at the size of that freaking school back here. Give me a break. Just amazing buildings. These are the kind of buildings that they're just destroying constantly now, or if there's even any left. And here's the Capitol building, complete with tiny man here. I mean, what, how, why, where? How did they do this? How is it possible they even did this? I mean, in the background here, look at, even back here, you see there's like just these antenna things stretching to the sky. Like, I mean, this is just bizarre. A little whitewash here, huh? Oh yeah, I see that. You gotta get rid of whatever's here. You gotta buff that out. Can't have that. Can't have that giving shit away. No, sir. This is one of the cathedrals here, and one of several that are just breathtaking and completely impossible for these dusty cowboys to build. This is the picture in 1890, so just a few years after the state became a state. And you got high rises like this and clear photography like this. I mean, look at this place. This looks like a fantasy land. That picture looks like it's reflected in the survey right now that we see. All this neighborhood after neighborhood of these old, amazing. This is a beautiful city. Was a beautiful city. A few cottonwood trees and no parks. Yeah, right. Always acting like progress is so good when actually they're boning us. This is a high school. A high school. Right. So completely necessary and understandable. It's another cathedral in Denver. Mind-bogglingly old world. Coal miners again. Dusty miners. This is the Arapahoe County Courthouse. The very idea that this was created and made with a turbaned statue on the top. It's 20 feet tall. Is missing an arm. That seemed believable. Like what does that have to do with American culture? What does any of this have to do with anything? And furthermore, look at here. This is like a little mini monument here. A little mini Washington monument sort of item. What is that with a little pyramid on top? Curiouser and curiouser, isn't it? And maybe it's just a fancy electric pole. Maybe. But meanwhile, you got vehicles that look like this. These dumpy little wagons. Look at this one. Look at this one with the bent wheel. It's like a bent smaller wheel than even in this side. Like, what a joke. Not only that, but I'm pretty sure these two guys are the same as these two guys. Just this has got like this is partially concealing his face here. Look at that. Same hat. Same hat here as here. This is definitely this guy from the side. And the same shoes. What's going on here? I don't know what's going on here. But Denver don't look like this today. This is in Trinidad, Colorado. Does this look new? This looks hundreds of years old. It looks like abandoned and flooded out. And not just once either. I mean, what is this? You mean to tell me you built it like this? What are you doing with all these wheelbarrows, I wonder? Couldn't be like excavating dirt from inside, could you? That'd be too weird, wouldn't it? This is also in Trinidad, the Trinidad Bank. Those windows. I mean, what a joke. Look at the condition of the road. This dirty, chopped up, muddy road. Yet you're gonna have that. Also in Trinidad. Timeline seems way janky on this one. There you have it in full color. The baffling and majestic Colorado Capitol. So many questions. Most glaring of which is, how? How was this built in that era with such few people? Was it necessary? What's it for? Fine. Maybe you want to say, well, Denver's a very populated area. It had the capacity and the ability and the desire and the need. And okay, fine. What about some of these other ones? Now, I didn't cherry pick these, okay? These are just courthouses in Denver. Random ones. Some of them are within reason, like this one in Benton County here. This is reasonable. Although the population is, even still today, is only 5,000 in the entire county. Okay, sure. This is a reasonable building. A little ostentatious, but okay. This one is in Chaffee County, if I'm pronouncing these right. And this is 20,000 people in the entire county. Has this old world wonder here. This is 1,700 people live in this entire county. And this is the courthouse. I mean, maybe. This one's reasonable. This is Custer County. And this one is a population of 5,000 in the entire county. Still today. And you find, it's not that massive, but stylistically, it's very old world. And we're told these places began these are built in like the 1800s, late 1800s. This was basically a church. I mean, this doubles as a church to me. This is in Huerfano, which is the Spanish word for orphan, I believe. Got an interesting name there. Look at him. It looks like a cute little robot, too. Look at him. He's like, yoo-hoo. This completely ridiculously over the top behemoth is Las Animas, which is a county of 14,000 only. And this is just patently ridiculous building. I mean, look at this one back here, too. And the foundation here is just bizarre. I mean, you mean to tell me this is intentional? No, we wanted the bottom to be crooked and weather beaten. This is the county courthouse in Montrose, and this is a larger county. This staircase is so clearly added on later, like just sort of shoehorned on there. It doesn't match anything. It's not level. It's ridiculous. Then you just make these windows the doors. Just expand these windows. The real true entrance is probably underground over here because this thing looks top heavy, as they all do. So these are old as hell. This one too. Why would you have these windows like this? I mean, I know this is a beaten horse, a dead horse we're beating, but it's just so obvious in modern times. Like, this looks like something out of India, except like the hill got flooded out. And these have the look to me of old power stations. Just old. You gotta leave a car in the forest, and after a while it gets populated by birds and bees and creatures make their homes in it and stuff. It just seems like that's what we're doing here. We don't have any idea of their real purpose, so we're just kind of like hanging out and turning them into whatever we want. This is the courthouse in Prowers. Yeah, 11,000 people in the entire county. You got the money and the wherewithal to do this. Okay, very bizarre. Soquatchie County, as in Soquatchie, you mouth, bro. I don't know if I'm mispronouncing that, but there's only 6,000 people in the entire county, and they feel necessary to have this. Some of them are reasonable. I understand you want to have, a place of civic center and a place of pride. Not that kind of pride, but a place you can be proud of. And I get it. I guess it's reasonable. It just seems unlikely that back then they would build that. This is Weld County. This is a big county of people. But the thing, this grandeur of this building is just ridiculous. We built back then, 1890 or whatever they say this was built. Baffling. Just baffling. So, to my larger point, I guess the point I'm trying to make isn't necessarily about the impossibility of these, although that is looming in the distance. It's more of the idea of, why aren't we seeing this in the survey? Why aren't we seeing this? Why are we seeing this is in Denver in 1892, 14 years after they became a state. We got streets that look like this, and power lines. This is flushed out, and why don't we see any of this? This is the U.S. Custom House in Denver. Look, it's massive. And these buildings are being demolished at a rapid rate. I mean, it is tragic. This is 1916. 1916 is, of course, your federal courthouse, and this is the post office in Grand Junction, okay? My question is, why aren't we seeing this stuff in the survey? I'm sure we did see this one, this Pueblo Federal Building, but this is a post office in Sterling. I mean, these are just crazy. This is the Noble County Courthouse. There's a random castle, Bishop Castle in Fairview, they call it. Another, so these are some of the structures that you see when you're in Colorado, like this, Church of the Immaculate Conception. What is this? This is a monster. This is on the level of, you might find in Germany, but no, it's here in Denver. Built by a bunch of rusty old crusty coal miners. This one too. Yes, sir. Jasper got himself a cousin over there in Hungary, and what mailed him some blueprints, and we just set to digging and building and stacking them blocks. That's right. We built this here dome too. We ain't really quite sure why we did it, but hell, it's done. Got drunk and just threw a bunch of gold up, and there it is, boy. This one looking like it's literally sinking into the parking lot. This is in Pueblo, Colorado. You can't tell me that this church doesn't look like it's supposed to go down another 6 feet. I'm sure there's a basement. No, dude. You're definitely conspiracy, man. Everything is totally normal here. Denver Athletic Club, made of 1 billion bricks looks like. All of this, very necessary. This is the Elks Lodge in Montrose. So you get the idea. I just wanted to give you some perspective as to why I'm so frustrated going through these surveys. Like, what the hell is all this? These beat up cabins and whatnot. That ain't the Denver that I know. And now maybe it ain't the Denver you know. So here's to hoping that survey picks up, and I'll see you soon.